Hey guys, RNG here, back with another Masterlist deck tech. The deck that we're going to be talking about today is called Party Hour. Party Hour is an evolution of my previous Masterlist article, Turbo Hour, set firmly in the Felon colors, and it takes its name from a new card that Direwolf Digital has just released called Scouting Party. Scouting Party was released during the surprise version 1.11 patch as a promo card, the first promo card actually, and promos aren't earned the same way as regular cards. For your first win of the game every day for the first 2 weeks after a promo card is released, you get a free copy of it. After that time, it becomes craftable normally. Unfortunately, it's only been 3 days since the promo card was actually released, so I only have 3 copies that I can play in the deck. But you'll notice that the deck is only 74 cards. The final list actually has 4 copies of Scouting Party in it. Now, as for what the card actually does and what makes this deck possible, essentially, is it's a 5-power primal spell that puts 4 1/1 Yeti Spies into play. Now, Yeti Spy is a card that has seen no constructed play whatsoever, and is one of the less powerful cards in the game, I believe. But it does have the ability of Infiltrate, draw a card. And when you have 4 of them, that means that combined they have Infiltrate, draw 4 cards. And 5 power for draw 4 cards is very powerful indeed. What makes it interesting in this deck is that Primal finally got a token generator that enables the Witching Hour. Casting Scouting Party will reduce the cost of the Witching Hour by a full 5 power, which is essentially like casting Shamanic Trance on it 5 times. That's a lot of mana downshift. I have used it to cast Witching Hour on turn 6 or turn 7 quite a few times with this deck, and it's a very strong play. Additionally, the card itself is pretty good. The 1/1s block if you're in that situation. They threaten control opponents a lot because they don't want to let you draw cards. And the decks that are playing right now are usually playing 1 or 2 big things. This forces them on the defensive if they don't want to let you draw cards, and it lets you build up a board state. They also combine really well with Champion of Cunning, a very powerful card, because giving them flying or charge can allow you to surprise your opponent and sneak them through to cash them in. Now, the true combo in this deck, and this is a combo deck for sure, is Champion of Cunning plus the Witching Hour. If you play them both together when you've got enough influence to activate both of Champion of Cunning's abilities, you get 5 6/6 flyers that have charge, which suddenly attack the opponent for 30 damage out of hand. That's a 2-card combo that does 30 damage with no prior setup against any opponent. That's a lot of damage. You only start at 25 health, so that's a no-hit KO. And it's probably the most frustrating kill in the game, I think, to be on the receiving end of, because there's very few cards that can interact with it. Even if you kill Champion of Cunning, because of the way that priority works, if you cast Witching Hour before Champion, they don't actually get to respond to the Champion until you're already in combat and your riders are already attacking. So, Witching Hour by itself is also a very powerful card. Playing 4 4/4s for 6, 7 mana, or 7 power, is still pretty good. This stabilizes a lot of boards, and they work well together. Casting the Witching Hour reduces the cost of your next Witching Hour by 5, which can occasionally, well, often actually, let you play 2 in 1 turn. And if an opponent doesn't have Harsh Rule or 2 Lightning Storms, and they very rarely have 2 Lightning Storms, they're going to have a very difficult time winning through that. So the rest of the deck is basically built around enabling those 2 cards as quickly as possible. Seek Power and Vera's Favor are your main sigil searchers. Vera's Favor is also very good again right now. It pops Aegis, it picks off 1 toughness creatures, or units. It does break armor, but armory's not really a deck right now. That's highly played, so it's not a major concern. But it's very good against stuff like False Prince, Dawnwalker, Initiate, any of the 1 health Recano guys. It breaks Aegis on usually Crown Watch Paladin, but it pops, any protected unit. And also gets you a Shadow Sigil, which is very important. You also have Felon Stranger just as an early blocker that builds up your Primal as well as your Shadow. And unlike the previous Turbo Hour deck, you do want a You do want a critical mass of a secondary color. Champion of Cunning rewards you very highly for having 5 primal influence, so you want to build up for 5 primal. Usually, you start with a shadow influence, then you go for 2 primal in order to enable your card draw, Wisdom of the Elders here, your scouting party, your Celestial Omen, and then you go for 5 shadow as quickly as possible. Once you're there, you have a decision point. You want to get that 6 shadow in order to enable Witching Hour, but you also want 5 primal, so it's up to you what you get with your Seek powers. If you have a Vera's Favor or you think you're going to draw it in time, you can go for the primal, but usually I'd err on the side of the Shadow Sigil, just because the Witching Hour is such a powerful card, you definitely want to be able to cast it. Nothing feels worse than having 5 shadow influence and the power to cast Witching Hour and not being able to do so. So for the rest of the cards, there's card draw, push onwards, and wisdoms are 4 ofs. You play as many of them as possible to dig through. And we're also playing 4 levitates. Levitates are pretty good right now. They pop Aegis again. They can help push one of your guys through or surprise flyers with a blocker, but mostly they just cycle. And cycling is really good in a deck where you've got a core mass of powerful cards and you just want to get to them as quickly as possible. So I've been quite happy with Levitate over a higher impact card. For a removal package, we've got 2 Annihilate, 4 Death Strike, 2 Feeding Time. Feeding Time is there just because there's things like Dawn Walker that you want to, or the occasional Reanimator deck with Veras and things that you do want to silence as well as kill. Death Strike is it's a fast spell. It lets you keep up some of your other fast spells, and Annihilate's the cheapest thing you can get. You can run more Annihilates if you feel it's better. It's a metagame decision. I've been happy with 2. Some people advocate, or some people have seen the list have advocated 3 in the current metagame. I wouldn't go above 3 personally because it feels awful to be hit by multi-faction creatures that Annihilate cannot target. It also cannot target strangers. So if you're ever in a Feln versus Feln, Annihilate generally has some difficulty finding a target. Finally, we're playing Celestial Omen, which is, it gets any card in your deck. Generally, this is just 6 power, go get a Witching Hour. And usually by the time that you can cast it, the Witching Hour is low enough that you can play it in the same turn. But its secondary concern is usually to go get a Champion of Cunning to set up the hit KO of Champion of Cunning and Witching Hour. Then we've got Whispers the Void, which is a card that, it's a legendary. It's pretty uncommon to see it in play. What this does is it puts the Tormentor in the Void, which doesn't do anything for us specifically. We have no way to return it. We're not really interested in the card. But what the Tormentor does is it puts a Spiteling into play every turn. Spitelings are just little 1-mana 1/1s that are, they're annoying little chump blockers that make it difficult for the Sandstorm Titans of the world to slog through and get you. But every time a Spiteling comes into play, it reduces the cost of the Witching Hour by 1. Whispers is a pretty medium card. It's slow, it's grindy. It's good against control, but your deck's already pretty good against control with an almost unbeatable hit KO combo. And it's not the best card in the world, but it's better than the other token generations available in Feln, in my opinion. I've tried Torn of Spiders. This deck does not have the critical mass of units required to sustain it. I've tried Splashing Fire for Assembly Line. It's not. I don't think it's worth the consistency loss because you have to play a bunch of seats and things that slow you down. They come into play depleted. And Assembly Line isn't that great a card in the deck. It's just an enabler for Witching Hour. So I've been happy with 2 Whispers in the Void. It's not really a necessary card. If you don't have them, I wouldn't craft them for this deck. I'd play something else. Finally, assuming you're playing this list entirely, you have the 1 Flex slot, which I've currently got as a Backlash. The only way that an opponent can stop the Witching Hour or Champion of Cunning combo, if you can play the Champion second, is by backlashing the initial Witching Hour, and this backlash can get you out of that. So this is just a card for the eventual control matchups where you build up your hand a lot, you threaten them with scouting parties. Backlash is the trump there, and it also helps against other Feln decks to stop their Witching Hours, which you have no real good way to remove other than hitting them with one of your own. In terms of gameplay, the deck's pretty good against both aggro, mid-range, and control. Against aggro, you've got You've got the Feln Strangers and the Vera's Favors to hold off the early 2/1s and 2/2s, followed by some removal in the mid game and a lot of tokens to soak up to block. And as soon as you play a Witching Hour, the game is usually over against an aggressive opponent. This is true against most opponents that don't have harsh rule, but it's certainly true if you can get there against aggro. Against mid range, it's got all the big stuff. Feeding Time is pretty good, as is Death Strike, and Scouting Party starts to threaten them because they can be more attrition based, depending on the build. Scouting Party is mostly for blocking in the aggro matchup, but most decks don't usually have a good way to deal with Champion of the Cunning and Witching Hour. They might have Silence for Champion or Negate or Sabotage for Witching Hour, but they don't usually have both. Sorry, Backlash, sorry, not Negate. My MTG background shows through. But you have the better late game, and they lack the aggression of aggro in order to push you down, so you're usually pretty good against those. Against control, unless they have some kind of fantastic draw with multiple visages, you're eventually going to be able to get through with the champion combo and finish them, especially if they're Feln. If they're Feln, as long as they haven't cast enough spells to be able to play the Witching Hour, you're generally going to win that game, regardless of build. So basically, this deck has what I think is the most powerful card in the game, Champion of Cunning. It has a no-hit KO combo. It has one of the more powerful legendaries in the game, Witching Hour. It's consistent. It's got great power fixing, and it has good matchups against aggro, mid-range, and control. I legitimately think this is the best deck in the game right now, and I would not be surprised if Champion of Cunning became nerfed in the coming days. But for the meantime, this is a really fun deck to play. It's really good, and Scouting Party is one of the coolest cards that you can play because killing your opponent with Yetis is hilarious. I love it. I hope you enjoy it, and I look forward to showcasing it with some of the matches. Stay tuned.